Hi everyone, Naka Onulafor here to make the invisible visible. So have you ever been in a situation where maybe there's a group of people or a person who you haven't seen in a long time and you know you're going to see them and you're a little bit worried or anxious that they're going to see you in a state that you may not want to be in. So maybe you've gained some weight. Maybe you said you were going to lose weight and you never lost weight. Maybe you still are at the same job and you're worried that they're going to ask you about, oh, how's your new job? It could be that you broke off a relationship and you're worried about seeing this person or a group of people because they're probably going to ask you about, oh, how's your relationship? And you don't want to have to talk about your failed relationship, that the relationship is no longer in existence. So I just wanted to highlight some things about that because I think this is something we all experience. And I know one of the things that happens, say at like family reunions, is people may come up to you and make comments about how you've gained weight, or, oh, wow, you're still the same size that you were before. I thought you were going to lose weight. And again, even if no one says these things, you may be thinking these things. You may be assuming that people are looking at you and concerned that either you didn't stick to your diet or thinking that you're too large, or you've gained all this weight, or you may be insecure about your career situation and the fact that you're still at the same job, or like I said, maybe it's a relationship. So sometimes these things come from us, like our own insecurities, myself included, and sometimes it could actually be other people projecting their issues with themselves on us. So I just want to talk a little bit about this because I think it happens a lot, and I think it's not addressed as often as it should be addressed. So I'm just coming back from a doctor's appointment, and one of the things I can say, ever since I was a kid, I would dread getting on the scale at the doctor's appointment. I get on the scale at home, right? So it's not like I don't know how much I weigh, but something about getting on the scale at the doctor's office is always higher. And I literally remember times when I was younger, or even like in my 20s, I would like miss meals before I knew I had to go to the doctor because, like when you're at home, you can kind of control it. You can weigh yourself early in the morning with no clothes on. You can, kind of control the situation. Your scale might be a little different, but when you go into the doctor's office, they have a different scale. Oftentimes it might be in the middle of the day. Maybe you had a ton of water or, something like that. And it's going to have, the number is not going to be the same. So I used to just get a little bit anxious, and I'll just tell you that that was just me a couple days ago. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have this doctor's appointment. I'm just like dreading it. I have to get on the scale. I have to see what their number says, which I know is going to be different than my number. So I did that today. And the reason why I am here making this video now is because I just want to share something. So my doctor actually surprisingly ended up being Nigerian, and I didn't know that. I mean, I saw her name. It clearly looked like a African last name, but I didn't know she was going to be Nigerian. And so we had an amazing conversation. She's a great doctor. And one thing I'll say about living in the DMV area is that you have access to a lot of Black doctors and dentists, and if you need a therapist, it's all here. So I have not struggled at all in this area with getting Black healthcare service. So one of the things we talked about a lot of things, but one of the main things is, and so healthcare can be one of those things that, I mean, there's some objective components, but there's also some subjective components to it. For example, if your healthcare, if your doctor is thin, right? Like they might be thin, maybe they physically look fit. So I think a lot of people, well, me, I'll say myself, I assumed, I didn't know what this woman was going to look like. And again, I knew what my experiences were with my other doctors, which were, my previous doctor was African American. I had a great experience with her. I was a little leery to meet with this new doctor because I was like, I don't know, if she's thin, then she's probably going to be, telling me I need to lose all this weight and da 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 da. And shockingly, I mean, she wasn't thin. She wasn't also, very large either, but she didn't, do anything. She didn't address my weight at all. And so, and what we actually ended up talking about was more, some of the things, to be honest with you, that most doctors will not tell you. And so one of the things about me is I ask a lot of questions. And she even said, I love the fact that you take your healthcare in your own hands. Now, she did also make some comments about I need to just relax. and I was actually relaxed, but I use those opportunities to ask as many questions as I can. And one of the things for me personally that I've been working on is my blood pressure. And she, very similar to previous doctors, have told me that in the African American and African community, many people struggle with high blood pressure. Weight can be a factor, but even people who are thin struggle with high blood pressure. Now, I am not a doctor, so obviously I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing with you some information that she gave me. And so she talked to me about, even when she was in Nigeria just recently, she, and real quick, her specialty is like obesity and weight and things like that. So again, when I saw that in her bio, I was like, oh my goodness, I already know what this is going to be like. I can predict this whole conversation. And the funny thing is, I've actually never experienced that in the medical industry. And I've never experienced any, body shaming or fat shaming, or even just mention of my weight. And now I'm starting to maybe realize why. So any conversation about weight that I was having with her was brought up by me. So we talked about a lot of different things. And I think the most important thing that we talked about was, I guess you call it labs or different levels. And so she was kind of looking back through my records. We were talking about my blood pressure. She was mentioning how a lot of Black people are sensitive to salt. And by that, I think the assumption is that if you do struggle with high blood pressure, the assumption is that, oh, well, you must be eating a lot of salty foods, where that could be the case. But some people, if you're just more salt sensitive, even if you eat a regular diet that is going to involve some level of salt, because our bodies do need some level of salt, your body is going to respond to it differently. And so she was saying how a lot of Africans and African Americans, struggle with this. Now, we know that a lot of African Americans, our diets might not be the best, but we also know that there are people who eat relatively healthy and not, especially if you go to certain parts in Africa, people are eating, even if it's not maybe healthy, it's not very processed. So it's not like everyone's just eating potato chips and, very salty things. But again, it's the way our bodies are processing these salts, and a lot of it is genetic too. So, again, so she was speaking very specifically to Black people. And a lot of doctors, again, will just put you on medication. They won't tell you, they won't explain anything to you. You will think that you will feel singled out. You won't necessarily know that, oh, wow, this is part of a larger thing that's happening with a lot of people, especially a lot of Black people, especially, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to say weight doesn't matter, but there are thin people who struggle with high blood pressure, right? So again, we're talking about all that. And then she starts looking at my, I guess you call it levels, or I don't know, but she was talking about cholesterol, and she noticed that my cholesterol was like A1. And she was like, wow, that is absolutely amazing, that your cholesterol is so good. She said, this is actually one of the best numbers I've seen in a while. I was like, really? Yeah. So she explained like what can cause high cholesterol. And so I'm telling you this not because I'm on here bragging, but I just want to highlight something. So here I am being very concerned or like worried and anxious about going to the doctor, because I'm like, oh, she's just going to shame me about the fact that I weigh this, and I need to change my diet. And I ended up leaving feeling empowered in the sense of, of course, getting the information I needed about my blood pressure, but then also, her telling me, great job. A lot of Americans have high blood pressure, a lot of Americans have, high cholesterol. Yours is really, really good, and I say that because, again, a lot of people might hear, if you struggle with blood pressure, they make assumptions about, what you're eating. If you're a certain weight, people are going to assume that you eat a certain way, or you're doing something wrong. And a lot of things, there's just so many reasons why the physical manifestation of the way we look is what it is. I mean, again, you could be eating things that are not so great, maybe not working out as much, or sometimes it could be genetic. Sometimes it could be, again, the way your body processes things. It could be thyroid. There's so many things. But I guess the reason why I wanted to come on here and say this is because society, and sometimes we only focus on one thing, which is weight. And I was even thinking, I said, wow, I could see how someone could be so worried about the doctor scrutinizing their weight that they won't even go to the doctor. Like, I even considered it. I was like, do I even really need this doctor's appointment today? I mean, it was my annual physical. And I was like, oh, I probably don't even need to go in. Again, all because I was concerned about, oh, this new doctor is going to make comments about, what the scale says. And she never did. I mean, again, it was, and not that it's not on her radar, it's not that she didn't encourage me to just, keep gaining weight. No, but we did talk about, whatever my concerns were, but also we addressed things that, I didn't even realize were, and again, a lot of times, the doctors, you won't get any negative feedback, like from your labs, say whatever levels they're looking at. You just leave, and then later, 3 or 5 days later, they upload in the portal your records. And a lot of times I don't even look at that stuff. I'm like, okay, well, if there's an issue, I'm assuming they would have called me. So I don't even look to see, like, what are those levels and what do those numbers mean? I just move on with my life. And if no one called me saying anything was bad, I just like, okay, I guess everything's fine. But to actually have a doctor highlight to me specifically that there was, again, cholesterol, my cholesterol is really good, that meant something, because it made me feel like, okay, even though I know that I may have struggles with my weight or blood pressure, but there are so many other things that are working for me that I don't even think about. So I don't know, again, who this message is to, I don't know who this message will help to come on here and just say a little something about this, because I think oftentimes we are so critical and judgmental of ourselves. And, we put so much pressure on ourselves to be dang near perfect. And we assume that other people are also putting the same pressure on, looking at us like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, you're still, you're just comfortable still in the same place that you were last time. And we don't realize that other people, like my assumption about this doctor, that I assumed she was going to judge me. And she was not judgmental at all. In fact, she highlighted some of her own struggles. And we were both sitting there talking about, she told me about certain things that raise her blood pressure and can make her blood pressure higher. And, she gave me some tips. And, so again, and I think even doctors are not, they're human too. So even though we may be worried that they're going to scrutinize us in some way, oftentimes they could be learning from us, in some way, and just hearing our experience, obviously not learning in the medical sense, but just, many of them the ones who really like their job, they enjoy meeting and talking with patients and answering questions. And it shouldn't feel like a hierarchy where it's like, oh, the doctor is way up here and I'm down here and they have to educate me. Sometimes it may be that way, but sometimes it's just an even exchange of two people, professionals in their own right, having a conversation. And that's what it very much felt like. And that's what it should feel like. And so it's unfortunate that a lot of people have, a lot of Black people, especially Black women, we have such negative experiences with healthcare, because it really shouldn't feel negative. And we shouldn't be afraid to go in and seek medical care, but I can understand why that fear does exist. So the last thing I want to address is just this whole idea and question about being comfortable. And, I think a lot of us kind of struggle with, this idea of, oh, I'm comfortable in my job, or I'm comfortable in this weight, or I'm comfortable in this relationship, or whatever it is. And I just wanted to say that, sometimes, depending on your situation, being comfortable is not a bad thing, and again, and I'll just use weight as an example. I personally don't like when, and not that it happens a lot, but people have made comments about me, and again, and it maybe they haven't seen me in a long time, or maybe they assumed I was going to look a certain way, and they, made a comment based on their assumption. And again, a lot of times people are projecting their issues on you when they make comments, but I don't like that we see people, we haven't seen someone in a long time, and the first thing we comment on is their weight. Like, oh, wow, you're, and I understand, like, sometimes height might be something that's a little bit more socially acceptable to comment on, like, oh, you've gotten taller. But, people who, make comments about you've gotten larger, or, oh, you're not as small as I thought you were. That's, in my opinion, is not appropriate. But again, this assumption that when I see this person, or if I go to my high school reunion or whatever it is, I need to, I need to lose all this weight, because I want to appear like I'm progressing, right? And even with the job, the career, all of that. It's like, oh, well, I want to, I hope that when I see these people, I'll have this job so that I can tell them I'm now a CEO, a director. And for me, for the last however many years, I've been showing up like, oh, still work at the same place, still there, nothing has changed, So sometimes, things being stable is good. It's not bad, because there are people who their weight fluctuates so much. They might lose 80 pounds and then gain it back and then some. Whereas I was just even keel the entire time. Still here, still me. And it's actually healthier, they say, to maintain your weight versus losing a ton and gaining a ton. So what I'm saying is, it's unfortunate that our society is so superficial and everything is based on looks and appearances. And again, we all participate in it. But the reality is progress is always happening. And a lot of that is internal. So for me, I may look the same. I may have the same job, may still live in the same place, but I'm always growing and improving every single day. I'm really big on inner work, and whether that's however I'm improving myself, whether it is reading books or listening to books or podcasts or talking to other people, researching various things, my own book that I, recently wrote and will be available very soon, even this YouTube channel, whatever it is. I'm always very much interested in improving and getting better. So again, don't allow your physical appearance or anyone to, look at you, or, don't internalize that because you physically have not changed. You're the same weight, or you're at the same job, or you live in the same neighborhood, that, somehow you haven't progressed. We're always progressing. So thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more. Bye.